Welcome to SeriousTech, Engineering the Future, a podcast where we deep dive into the critical role of domain expertise in shaping successful careers in technology. In a rapidly evolving tech landscape, mastering a specific domain is what sets top engineers apart. Join us as we explore how domain tech is transforming industries with a special focus on healthcare, and hear from experts who have built cutting-edge solutions by combining technical brilliance with specialized knowledge. If you're looking to stay ahead in your tech career, this is the place to be. Today, we are joined by Ketan Mamtora, Principal Architect at CitiusTech. With over 23 years of experience in technology, Ketan has led innovative projects in data engineering and cloud migrations, specializing in Azure, AWS, Databricks, and Snowflake. He currently leads the data engineering practice at CitiusTech, where he has successfully scaled the team and played a pivotal role in building end-to-end enterprise data platform on cloud, involving designing and implementing data pipelines, data models, and ML ops solutions in healthcare. In our episode, Ketan will share insights into the role of cloud technology in transforming healthcare data management, the critical role of engineers in enabling cloud adoption and optimizing healthcare data systems, real-world use cases where cloud solutions are making a significant impact, and the key skills and strategies for engineers looking to excel as cloud experts in healthcare. Ketan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Laurel. Happy to be on the show.
We're happy to have you, and you're bringing your expertise to this topic here. We're talking cloud adoption first, and it really has come a long way in healthcare. From your perspective, what are some major shifts that you have seen over the years, and how are those shifts shaping the way that we manage healthcare today?
Sure, Laurel. As you know, I've been in the industry for about 23 years. So I've started my career in 2001. And those were the days when we built, very large applications which are running on local computers, like thick architecture applications. Within few years, the technology evolved and we started building client server applications. After that, the cloud started, coming into the way. The very early days were, virtual machine-based software, virtual machine-based systems. And I still remember the days when we did our first BI clinical implementation on cloud, which was in the year 2014. So that was when the Azure launched their first cloud services. Uh, Believe me, they were like very basic networking, very basic virtual machines, firewalls, gateways, everything that we were doing on premise on local environment, we did it on cloud. And that is how we were able to successfully implement our first solution on the cloud in the year 2014. Now, after that, the cloud has rapidly evolved its technology. The early days were infrastructure as a service. After that, the platform as a service came into picture. And now everybody's talking about software as a service, which is like you just log in, you pay the services for which you are looking for and start using the applications. That's software as a service. So similarly, in the healthcare world, the technology has evolved along with the cloud. So in early days, the EMR applications, the HR applications, laboratory systems, they were all disconnected, running in isolations. With cloud technologies, all of those applications are running on cloud, sharing data with each other seamlessly and making the lives of the healthcare professionals much easier, and also reducing the cost and improving the efficiencies overall. So that is how I've seen the technology evolve. Also, I would like to highlight that, Center of Medicare and Medicaid Service, CMS, or health services in US, HHS, or FDA for a matter of fact, this standard compliance organizations, they brought a lot of cutting edge, requirement in the market. And these requirements are forcing the healthcare professionals, the hospitals, the payer organizations to adapt to the cloud technologies. If they don't adapt to these technologies, they can't keep up with the pace of this compliance requirement and they will be left out. They won't be certified. They can't kind of serve their customers well. So CMS is ensuring that everybody uses latest and the greatest in the field and they adapt to the cloud technologies. So in summary, the cloud has actually enabled the collaboration of various entities like patients, members, pharmacies, hospitals, physicians together collaborate on the cloud and deliver, the services which are required for the patients.
Yes, the pace of technology certainly seems to be moving faster and faster. And the fact that cloud has enabled this collaboration to take place between everyone in the healthcare ecosystem is incredibly important in allowing for better care and for doctors and practitioners to do what they do best. With data engineers, I mean, they're really at the heart of that transformation. How are they driving the cloud adoption when it comes to healthcare, and what challenges are they helping to solve?
I would take this question slightly differently, Laurel. What I feel is the technology needs to be used by the healthcare professionals. Then only they can serve the patients better, right? And to enable healthcare professional to use these services, the responsibility lies with the data engineers. I would like to put it in that perspective because there is a need. The data engineers has to perform, leveraging those technologies. And I can give you a very simple analogy. Think of a car race, right? The driver is very important to win the race, but the performance of the car is also important in winning the race, right? So I would put healthcare professionals as a car driver and the data engineers as somebody who's actually building the car for them to run it at the desired pace with the right, tuning and all that stuff, correct? So looking at that analogy, I would say that the healthcare professional must, kind of learn these technologies and make best solutions on the cloud platforms. And that then only the healthcare professionals will be able to deliver these services, right? Now, let us look at what is the primary role of a data engineer, right? They help aggregate the data, they help transfer the data from application to application, migrate the data to the cloud, and build analytics on top of it. So these technologies are enabling this data aggregation at a very fast pace. The processing can be done at a very fast pace. These solutions can be put in the hands of the professional healthcare professionals so that at the point of care, where the professionals are providing the services, at that point of care, they are able to give a good quality data, a very fast response time, and then meet the requirement of providing a better care to the patients, right? Imagine that if the physician has to wait for a few seconds to look at a screen for the patient data, how much frustration he would get. Rather than that, if he gets the data right away in the screen, it would really help him take the decisions very quickly, right? So that is how the data engineers has to build the solutions to deliver the right data at the right time. Also, the cloud technologies have now guaranteed HIPAA compliance in a recent, past few years. So in very early days, it was very difficult to put healthcare solutions in the cloud because of the HIPAA compliance requirement. But now with the security and being HIPAA compliance, the solutions can be easily ported to the cloud and can run on the cloud. All right. So in summary, let's say that the data engineers are not directly impacting the lives of the patient. They actually act as a catalyst. They enable the professionals to provide better care. So they should not undermine their role. They should understand that a catalyst is important in a chemical reaction, right? So that way they have to do their job right so that the professionals can do their job right, right?
The analogy of the race car is a very good one. The healthcare practitioner, the professional in this case, is driving the car, but there needs to be all the technology and the speed, and for the car to work and work well in order to cross the finish line and allow for high performance. So let's take that analogy and take our engineers in the real world impact. Can you share some use cases in the real world where engineering has made a real difference in managing healthcare data on the cloud?
Sure. This is my favorite topic. This is where I get goosebumps when I talk about these stories to even my customers, even to the candidates which we are hiring from CTS for CTS Tech. When they tell me what do CTS Tech do, and I really get excited about that question. And I like to talk about two such use cases that has made, made me motivated to stay in the company for last 12 years. All right. So let's look at some of the cloud technologies which are there out there, today. Like I'll name few of them, like Databricks or Snowflake or Azure Fabric, uh, AWS Redshift or GCP BigQuery. These are the technologies which are built on foundations of cluster computing. They offer you massive parallel processing, and when I say massive, it means it can churn, gigabytes of data in few milliseconds. And that is the scale at which I'm talking about. All right. So think of a typical hospital setups where you have a lot of patients, and then you have to process their data and give the responses in a split second, as I explained in the earlier conversation, that it has to come quickly, right? So this cloud technologies has actually enabled those possibilities, and the newer ones, the LLMs, the RAGs, the knowledge graph, they are like making lives of the use cases, the use cases that one can think of unimaginable. All right. So one use case that I would like to talk about is a very standard use case, but think of this at a scale. All right. Don't think of this at a very small scale. The use case is about identifying the at-risk patient population. We call it as a patient cohort. Now imagine that a physician is looking at 100 patients in a month, and he has to figure out by meeting the patient, by looking at a lot of data, that which patients are at risk. All right. Now, if he has to do this job manually, how much time is going to take? It's going to take a lot of time to analyze the data and come up with, okay, out of those 100 patients, this 10 patients is at risk, right? And he has to go through all 100 patients to figure out those 10 patients, right? Now think that there is a system running in the backend in the cloud database systems, which helps narrow down those 100 patient to a 10 patient population, which is at risk population. Now we classify them as high risk, medium risk, low risk. So he will look at all the high risk patients, and he will find out the best way to provide a care to those patients. Imagine the burden that is reduced on the physician by this simple use case. And think of this at a scale. Those high risk patients, if they were not having a preventive care by the physicians, they would have resulted in an ER visit, or they could have resulted in a hospitalization. Think of the cost that would have impacted on the healthcare system because of ER admission or hospital admission. If the physician would have taken care of the patient at a facility level, the cost could have been few $100s. If the hospitalization happened, the cost would, you add more zeros to the cost, right? So that is a factor of cost reduction that we are looking at, and the ease at which the physicians can solve their problems. So that is one very important use case that everybody in the industry talk about. The scale is very high and the cost reduction is also very high. So it is very important to identify the risk population and do proper care of those patient populations. And because of the cloud database technologies, we can put this in the hands of physicians on a day-to-day basis. That is one use case that I told you about. The second use case is leveraging the cutting edge technologies like LLMs, RAGs, and knowledge graph, the large language models, the custom RAG models, and the knowledge graph modules. This is still ideation. This technology has come up very recently. So the solutions are in the ideation stage at a POC stage, where we are building a solution for physicians. Once again, we are solving this problem for physician. Think of the care guideline documents. Those are unstructured documents, correct? So far, we have been dealing with the structure or a semi-structured data. But with the advent of LLMs, we can work very efficiently with unstructured data as well. So think of a 10-page document which is there with a physician about a guideline. That, let's say that the heart patient guideline. Okay. So every heart guidelines will define the stage of a patient, stage A, B, C, D, with the severity of the patient condition. And for each stage, there is a prescribed, medicine, prescribed plan of care, the procedure to be performed, and so on and so forth. All right. Now, imagine that a physician has to read all those hundreds of care documents and correlate them with the current condition of the patient and suggest the preventive action plan. Because if imagine that there was no unstructured data processing engine available, this entire process is manual. But with the advent of LLMs, the, the LLM will analyze the document, will come up with the list of recommendations automatically for the physicians to take care of the patient. So think of some assist, like you have a very smart, intelligent assistant with you that will help you narrow down the problem and the solutions for you, for the physicians. And that is a kind of solution that we are right now building for one of our customer, Laurel. So that is a second use case that I can think of.
Those are great examples of use cases. And in both of them, the incredible improvement in efficiency and productivity that come out of both of those, and how that assists physicians and healthcare professionals allow to take care of more people, and more efficiently, and better too, and better healthcare. And those are huge examples in this case here. So when we're looking at engineers saying, yes, I want to be in this, I'm working with healthcare data, I love this, and they are working with healthcare data on the cloud, what are some of those key skills and the mindset that is needed in order to succeed?
Sure. So healthcare data engineers, divide that entire term into two parts, healthcare and data engineers. So for technology, the data engineer, and they are linked with technologies. But to be successful, to be a healthcare data engineer, you must understand the subject, the domain in which you are working. Technology is by default given. One has to be master of the technology to build the most efficient and the right solutions, correct? If you don't know the technologies, then you might as well make a bad use of it and make systems which are not efficient, which are not, helping physicians to serve the community better. So technology is given, but if they don't understand the healthcare domain well, they may make few mistakes in building the data solutions. And that is my practical experience. So what I've seen is in the industry, when you are working on something, you're building top-notch solutions. But if there is I usually call it as a difference between a syntax and the semantics. You get the syntax right, but if the semantics are not correct, then you're not solving the right problem. Correct? So similarly, you build the correct solutions, but if it is not serving the purpose of a healthcare professional, then you are not a successful healthcare data engineer. So in my mind, two things is very important, the technology and the healthcare domain. Without those two, it's impossible to work in as a healthcare data engineer. And at CitiusTech, we have understood this since very long. Like since our inception, we have been kind of building our knowledge base, our repositories of libraries, CitiusTech practice documents, the best way to build these healthcare solutions for leveraging different technologies. And we kind of collate that knowledge and put it in a knowledge portal, which is searchable. An engineer can log into that portal. It's a learning development platform. You can log into the portal, you can seek the information that you're looking out for, read about that document, read about the topic that you want to learn, and ultimately acquire the knowledge so that you can become a successful healthcare data engineer. And I myself has been very, very, enriched with the knowledge that I get. Imagine that you yourself read one book in a month, but think that hundreds of you are reading hundreds of books at the same time, and it's put as a summary in a knowledge base, right? And you search that knowledge base and you gain that knowledge very quickly. It's like in my early days, in my college days, we used to, don't study everything. One person will not study everything. Suppose you have 10 chapters in your exam, we used to divide one person will read two chapters each, right? And then we will teach each other so that before the exam we can complete our revision and we can appear for the exam, and we are successful with that kind of a pattern. So here also what we have done is we have extracted knowledge from hundreds of the healthcare professionals, thousands of the projects that we are working on, put it in a knowledge repository and made it searchable so you can acquire the right skill at the right time in your projects and your solution building.
And that's great, because when you're able to teach, it shows mastery of so it was a
Correct.
really good it was a good way to do that when you're teaching each other. We have been talking earlier about the speed at which technology has been rapidly improving and evolving over time. Looking ahead now, how can engineers continue to innovate and make a lasting impact within this healthcare technology space?
Technology has faced a lot, right? I mean, in last 6 months, we have seen uh, the chat GPT and then DeepSeek, right? Every month there's new technologies which is coming up for processing data. And believe me, the heart of all of this technology is data. Without data, these technologies will be kind of they are useful, but they may not be solving the real world problems, right? So to solve the real world problem, you need data, and to keep up with the pace of the technology, I would say that healthcare has been little slow in adapting the new technologies. I can give you an analogy, right? When the cloud technology came up, because of the HIPAA compliance requirement, the healthcare organizations were hesitant, reluctant to go on to the cloud technology. Similarly, this knowledge graphs, the LLMs, they have come into the play. But still, the healthcare professionals are little reluctant to adapt to these technologies. And the main reason behind that is quality and trust and the explainability of the results that come out of these models, right? So it's like up to us to determine whether the responses which are coming from these models are accurate or no. And you still need a subject matter expert for that, correct? So keeping those aspect in the mind, and the most bottom line in any solution is the life of a patient, right? You don't want to risk the life of a patient. So even if these newer technologies are giving you the best information at the right time, at the right place in your hand, but still, as a doctor, as a physician, it is your responsibility to weigh the pros and the cons of the responses which are coming in, and then fine tune it for the specific scenarios, and then apply those results to, or apply those treatment to your patients. So still, it is lagging behind. It is coming up slowly. It is kind of pacing. But the SME, the role of the SME plays very important role in adapting the technologies, right? So I would say that the data engineers has to build the newer solutions using these new technologies, but keep in mind the quality and the trust of the output that you're producing. You have to continuously validate it, and you have to keep feeding your development, your solutions with the newer and newer approaches and the result of the previous. So it's iterative, right? If you build a solution, deliver it, get the feedback, put it back in your solution, and then iterate over it. So that is how the data engineer also has to iterate over the technology and the solutions. And finally, they have to unlearn some of the stuff that they've learned traditionally. So I myself, coming from the legacy monolithic architecture pattern, nowadays when I heard microservices, massive parallel processing, those terms were Greek to me. But then I had to unlearn few of the principles of the design, principle of the solution architecting, and then learn them once again using the newer methods and the newer technology, right? So my advice to the data engineers would be to unlearn the old ways of doing things, learn the new ways of doing things. And then finally, if you think the latest technology is helping the healthcare professionals, I would say that the latest technology is also helping the developers. Nowadays, a lot of code is written by the LLM themselves, like the GitHub Copilot. If you have heard the latest news, I think somebody said that 30% of the code in Google last year was built by the generative AI solutions. So think that the code is being written by the LLM, but you still need a semantic check, right? I emphasize the difference between syntax and the semantic. You still need to validate the semantic of the code which was written by the LLM. So that is the kind of stuff that engineer has to take care, right?
It's Definitely a very exciting time in healthcare technology and for data engineers wanting to work in this space and who are currently working in this space. Ketan, it's been such a pleasure to having you on the show. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Laurel. Even I have learned many things from you in this conversation.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. I've learned so much from you.
The SeriousTech Engineering the Future podcast is brought to you by CitiusTech, a leader in healthcare consulting and IT services. To find out more about CitiusTech, visit CitiusTech.com. To listen to more interesting insights on healthcare technology and innovations, search and subscribe to CitiusTech's YouTube channel.